We do have some stuff that came out of Tiffany's studio that were pieces that fish things. There are two different.
I guess we started talking about this project really about a year ago. I was fortunate enough to get to meet Deb Harding, who let me into the collections to select a couple of Balachka pieces for a show we were having at the Glass Center called Life Forms. And she was so excited about all the other pieces that they had in their glass collection and knew that I would be enthusiastic too, that she just showed me a couple of drawers. And I was oohing and ahhing over them and saying that everyone, all the glass artists that I knew would just die to see this amazing work that they had. And really the dialogue started from there. So Deb and I started talking about how fun it would be to challenge our glass artists at the Glass Center to come in, take a look at these pieces, and then try to figure out how to one, recreate them. We have all this modern technology, and we're so much more sophisticated, you know, in theory, than these artists and craftspeople were, who were working in some cases thousands of years ago, and what the challenges might be of modern artists attempting to recreate something that was so old. So we thought that would be one fun piece, and then the second part would be having the artist do some research about the piece and figuring out perhaps what it was used for, or techniques that were used in making it, or why it was created, and then using some of that research and their inspiration from recreating the piece to actually reinterpret it. So take some element of what they've learned and make something new.
This experience to me is really exciting because I really love history, and I like tactile history, so every time I go to the museum with my family, I always love the Natural History Museum the most. So it's really cool because the Carnegie Museum doesn't necessarily have a ton of glass on display, so to come here and see all this really cool stuff is like the best thing ever. And the chance to recreate something and figure out and problem solve is an awesome opportunity.
Well, part of what my expectations are to see some wonderful works. It'll be really interesting to see how closely they can reproduce some of these things, and if they can reproduce some of the more difficult techniques, or whether they're going to have to go to modern techniques to be able to reproduce some of these things. And the other thing is what works are going to be inspired by these things. They can go anywhere with these. It could be, you know, you could take the pattern on a core wound vessel and just make something completely different with it. That'll be really exciting to see that.
I think the coolest thing about this collaboration to me is working with a medium like glass. It has such a rich history that oftentimes we're trying to figure out how to do new things with it, and in this particular instance we're taking old objects and reinterpreting them, which I think in essence we end up doing a lot. You know, even when we're thinking that we're making new objects, there's always this elaborate history like we've seen today of just, you know, a couple thousand years of objects that you're, you know, may or may not be aware of all the techniques and parts that have been done before. So
Been generous enough to let our artist team 6 at a time back into the collection to really explore, look through the cases, even handle the objects in some cases, which has been really exciting for the artists. I think that everyone has been giddy. I mean, as soon as she opens the door to the first cabinet, which you can just see a small selection here behind me, the artist's eyes just become giant saucers. They're so excited to see these objects that often you might see one of in a museum behind glass in a case, but to just see hundreds of them collected and to hear the stories about how the museum came to acquire them, I think has been really exciting for the artists. There's definitely been some surprises as well. I've been surprised, number one, by some of the pieces that artists have picked. In some cases they picked really complicated things that I think are going to prove to challenge them. It's been really exciting to see the artists kind of debating and asking each other questions and asking the questions of Deb, who is a wealth of knowledge. But even the best curators don't have all the answers for these objects. There are certain things that we just don't know, and I think that that's been a really fun challenge.